Are we live? Are you guys here? Am I here? Am I even here today? Ooh, I'm so happy to see you guys. Are we alive and can you hear me? I have excitement in my audio today. There's little squirrels and bugs in my audio. So it looks like Ryan is alive and well. Thanks for coming on early this evening. It's always fun to see the banter that goes on when we're getting ready. We are alive. You all say in unison. I love it. 5x5 says Eric the cat. If I can be quick enough to grab the comments, they're tootling up the chat stream there, and if I don't catch them, I always click on the next one. Romania made it. I'm supposed to ring the bell to keep you awake. That bell is for you, Romania Rockhound. Stay awake for the program tonight. We've got a super fun evening planned for you. We're going to have our first guest of 2026 on to talk about cab designs. It's going to be super exciting. We've got news, of course, and we've got a stack of pretties to shove in your eye holes as far as the cabochons go and other rock fun. So I'm glad that you are all here to enjoy this all with us tonight. We've got the Greg. The Greg is in the house. Good to see you. Like I said, they're flipping up the screen too fast for me. That opal guy is here. Good to see you. Trying to get back into it. It is so much work to make videos. Oh my gosh, I hear you. You know, I think we're not supposed to really talk about resolutions and things that we might have even promised ourselves last year. And, you know, all of you that are making regular videos, my hat off to you. In fact, my hat off so hard to you that it is permanently just off of my head. It is hard. The struggle is real, and we're all here for each other, right? Oh, the Rakakakakashan is here. Rashashan. The beat is up. Good to see you, Mad Rock Hounder. Has some good videos going on, is being regular with the drops. Good for you. Mr. Chubby Hubby is here also, probably rhyming away. Good to see you. Spot is here. And what's this? What's this? Spot is asking, anybody see the new YouTube direct message feature yet? I don't know. No. Should this be the news? That's news to me. So do tell us. I probably have some catching up to do, but slowly but surely I'm going to make sure that I say hi to you all this evening, this fabulous Friday night. Steinkerns, and cheers to you and your fun weekend that you have ahead. Let's hear about it, and I hope that you've got a good one planned, that you've got lots to look forward to. Yeah. We are off to a good start this Friday. Weathered and Weary is here. Thank you for coming. We got the Phil. Phil has been in the house since before we got started this evening. Jeff is here. Good to see you, Jeff, as always. And Julie is here as well. Always good to see you. And we have the Betty, the rock Betty-est Betty out there. Good to see you. Harold is here as well. Everybody's saying hello to each other. We've got the Kid Curry motorboating on in here. And getting into the science lab. What's under the slide there? What's on the sled? What's on the slab in the lab? And hopefully, yeah, we're coming in loud and clear, not pixelated. Boy, you remember a couple weeks ago? And so hopefully we're sharp. Good evening, says Chris to everyone. Great to see you all in chat. I'm multitasking and watching. Slow to chat. Well, I'm glad that you're here. We're fast to yammer, so we'll keep it going. But we want to hear from you too. Brenda is here and is holding down the chair. Okay, me too. Good. Some of us have got to do the stability work. I'm all about it. And Eric the Cat is saying, I hear you too. I've just about stopped uploading videos because YouTube's new processing is wrecking my work. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. As you guys know, that there's the confetti syndrome, where if you've got, say, ruffling leaves, like a lot of them, like you're trying to film an aspen grove or something like that, it'll just completely discombobulate and just pixel because it just that compression and frame rate and everything that they give doesn't keep up with certain things. And so as detailed as, say, the beautiful nighttime sky and all of the glittering stars and the magnificence of what you can capture with really, really good astrophotography, would probably fall on its face a little bit with compression. So, boy, I hear your woes there. And Ryan, I did say hi, didn't I? And thank yous. We were talking in the chat before. I want to make sure that I cross my T's and dot my I's, right? And Ma is here. Good to see you. And Ma is also working on stuff and whatnot and so on and so forth. Of course, always have the hands holding down some rock on the flat lap, I think. So thank you for joining us. We got Scott here. Good to see you as well. Glad you made it through all of the holidays and that we're all still here on the Oregon coast. We didn't get blown away by the last storm. We had the biggest thunderclap during the storm. We don't get a whole lot of electric storms out here on the coast. And so, if there's thunder and lightning and all that kind of stuff, it means business. A lot of times those squalls, they come in tempest hard and they pound the coastline, and we're in the middle of king tides right now. So everybody's trying to just hold their houses down. Of course, we're waiting for some serious beach erosion. That isn't a bad thing. But yeah, we had this big thunderstorm move through, and the thunder rolled so loud that it just made the windows just wobble. And I haven't heard anything like that since leaving Arizona. That was the first time. I thought something like a car hit my house first, honestly. I live on a road where somebody could like drive off the road and unfortunately come like down the cliff and into my house. And there's a tiny bit of fear in there somewhere. I thought it had happened, but it was just thunder. I hope you guys are all staying okay with the crazy weather that we've been having. The Cascades just got dumped on with some snow, and I know it's making its way off across the country to all y'all. So I hope that you're all warm and cozy and having a lovely little drink, whatever that might be. Jerry's here with the live long and prospect. We've got Brian in the house. And it looks like we've got Pebbles too. And Pebbles and Rocky, say hi to everyone. Oh, those dear pups. Everybody stay hydrated tonight. Goodness gracious. Oh my gosh. Yes, the force and all the other things be with you. Um, I'm just scrolling down. Boy, am I a lot of the time, you guys know this, I catch up on the chat afterwards when I'm doing the chapters, and then I see these awesome comments. I'm like, "Oh, I wanna, like, in real time, write you back," and, of course, the hour is gone, but, thank you guys all for jumping in and having a good time in the chat. Oh, yeah, Prairie Girl is here. Miss Allison is hanging out with us, and it looks like she's always up on this stuff. Don't you let that prairie part, mislead you about the sharpness of Allison. So she's saying I used the voice message once, cool A, and also if you missed it on Wednesday, she had dropped a quick video that she followed up with a longer video with some nice photography on that one, and then talked about the project with the meteorites on her live. And so definitely check that stuff out if you haven't had a chance to yet. We have currently rock counting Jared in the house as well. You can ease the compression by rendering your video in a different codec. That is wonderful information there. And if you guys didn't, thank you, Jared. And if you didn't see earlier, I think it was during the Arizona Rockhound Expedition's last live stream on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Julie and Brian were talking about a new addition if you'd like to make it to your studio. That is a plate that Jared has created for the 10-inch high-tech saw. I have one, and if you are not happy, if you haven't seen, go check the information. He did drop a video on this specific thing, but just to thumbnail it really quick for you, it's this wonderful addition to the hood of your saw so that your table, what you put the rocks on to slide them through the saw blade, is not the plastic. And I think everybody has their feelings about the plastic. And so that we have an alternative is awesome. And I hope even the high tech people are saluting you for this, because it's a wonderful addition to a good tool. But this will make it a much better tool, in my opinion. So I'm really excited about it as well. I gotta put some more coins in the empty jar. Everybody probably feels the same way. A little bit of a holiday hangover from the financial impact of all the holidays, and so it's a good thing. It's like almost towards the top of my list of things that I need to attain for the studio. Silver is up there. We'll talk about that in a moment when we jump into our ozone news. We've got Jim Fry in the house. It's so good to see you. And does Karen actually live on Cape Fear? This is a good question. I live near a cape that has a pretty kind of impending doom name, and on a headland. And so yeah, I like pretty ground zero for a lot of the tempest stuff that comes straight in from the ocean, which is dramatic and wonderful, awesome to watch, and then at the same time terrifying. Terrifying at times, if I'm being honest. And so I'm trying, like I said, again, just catching up on the comments, and then we'll move on. Everybody is saying their hellos, and you're welcome, Jared. And Jeff is talking about can't wait to get his. And so it sounds like the orders. I hope you're doing well with that, because that's something that benefits everybody. It's not just, we're all in business in one way or another, but there's things that benefit the entire community when you are. And so I very, very much love that that there are these things that that are coming into the community that benefit us all. And we've got this. We've got Tom, Cat, Josh here in the house. Good to see you. Member for 10 months. But wait, there's more. You're like, Karen, when are you going to get to this? We have Jim Fry. Thank you so much for coming by and dropping 10 new Ozone Fine Art Ventures memberships on the community. Thank you. Here's another one of those things that helps the whole community. Thank you so much and welcome in those of you who just got an Ozone-ite membership to the other side. And woe is me, I'm so behind on the stuff that needs to be dropped on that side. I have something like 5 or 6 videos that they're just going to go in rapid fire. Hopefully I get to this weekend. It's been extra. It's been extra, you guys. Just when you think like, it's time to put our feet up, relax, all of that crazy season stuff is over. Extra, we'll find you. And so we're holding it down. All right. And we've got J&V Rock Hounding, also a member for 9 months. And it does feel like a long, long time. Thank you for that. Tomcat Josh, I hope that you are staying warm. Been thinking of you over there in what might be the snow zone. So definitely keep warm. And I know my mom is out there. Hi, Mom. How you doing? This broadcast tonight is definitely part of you. This is about design, and that's one of my mom's strong suit. We have Save Arthus. I like that. Sure makes getting that saw more attractive. Yeah, for sure. And thank you for dropping in. And I think I have finally got to the bottom. Absolutely warm as always. Good to hear, man. Good to hear. Want to make sure that you're good and snug. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get this rolling. She says, hopefully. Here we go. Nope. There we go. Hold on. One more time. It's the Ozone news. Boy, that could have been so much cooler. But it is. It's the Ozone news, and there we've got that too. I'm gonna get better at that. It's a whole nother thing if you're engineering your own show. First of all, we have the silver prices. What's going on here? Let's remove that. Let's get this up here. All right, one more try. There we go. Silver is at $78.14. Gold is at $4,493.85. We've got platinum rounding out at $2,282, along with palladium at $1,833. So the market with the precious metals has been going up. And then it kind of like peaked out, and then it kind of like wavered a little bit. It's holding at 78.14. Makes you feel like when it turned that corner into the 70s that you bought more. In fact, I wish I had bought more when I was complaining about it being 40. So also on the Rio Grande website, non-affiliated, definitely not backed by these guys, but definitely a fan as far as ordering. But they're already gearing up for the Valentine's stuff. I hope that you are also. We're getting ready to do a jewelry drop as far as that's concerned too. But yeah, it is just around the corner, guys. And so that will lead us into The next thing, I've been doing some adventuring. I am amazed by Amazonite. Amazonite from Theo. Theo went up the Pikes Peak and went and got the Amazonite on his own. Well, no, there were people with him, but he was the adventurer that was able to go get some. I was working this cab and it split in two, and lo and behold, there was this insane little inclusion guy. And so I was wondering, is this pyrite? Is this copper? Is this what kind of madness is hiding inside this stone? I wasn't even mad about it losing its head and splitting in half. And Theo is feeling like it's most likely mica. So, what we're going to have to do is take a moment to put that underneath the microscope, of course. And so, in addition to that, with the amazingness of Amazonite, we did come across this strangeness. This is albino Amazonite, as per called by Ma. We'll have another look at this. I thought this was so interesting. We've got all of this super saturated turquoise colored Amazonite. And so it's so incredible when you can capture that radiant chatoyance. We've been doing that in the Ozone studios all week long, and then we come across this guy. No color. And this is what makes me excited, but I think it's the anomaly. It's the fact that here's a piece that is supposed to be shockingly electric in color, and instead we have this beautiful pearlescent guy. We'll run that video one more time. Look at that. That'll make a lovely accent stone. And out of all of the stuff that I got, I have only been able to find one stone like this. And so we love the Amazonite, and yet it keeps on delivering some really, really interesting surprises. So in addition, in the Ozone news, we have some new stuff going on over at the Discord. And so I'm going to bring on my man on the street, and he's going to talk about what's going on over there at the Discord. Welcome in, Caleb.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Worked today, and now I'm enjoying my evening and happy to be here.
Nice. Well, we are so happy that you are here. Welcome on. Happy New Year, and you get to be the very firstliest guest on the show.
Happy New Year to you and everybody else, and yeah, should be a good one to start the year off.
Absolutely. And so tell us a little something about what we've got going on, the changes, the excitement over there on the Discord.
All right, so we got a few things happening. So I gifted over the responsibility for the makers kind of challenge area of the server to Ryan, so he's heading that up now. Putting a new take on it and trying a new format on the server for the different posts that can go there, and people can kind of isolate into one like person's post and put all the comments right under it. So definitely go check that out. I believe the theme for this month is opals, so that's been pretty cool to see what you and everybody else have been dropping in there, some wicked things.
Yeah.
And then for the free-for-all cab contest that Ma puts on, made a little change there where now she's doing her own theme instead, or whoever wins picks their own theme, just like I do for the regular cab contest. Instead, before it was tied together and loosely with like a little change there. So that's pretty cool to see that kind of branching away a little bit and being able to spread its wings a little bit more. And then for me, I started up the traditional cab contest again. We had a whole solid year with a lot of really good engagement, I felt. So, and with the recent changes that I made over the past couple months, we've seen a lot more engagement on that side, which has been pretty cool. And so if the theme for that is two-faced. It's basically making a cabochon where the features in the stone are kind of split down the middle one way or another, and you can orientate that in different ways. But the idea is to kind of have it split where you could have either the colors or pattern or other elements that kind of split it in half, so you get kind of two sides on the cabochon. So that's pretty cool. We've already got one really cool entry for that from Wisconsin, so that's pretty neat. And
Yeah, you gotta love Jerry for heading up. Ryan and Jerry always
mhm.
seem to like want to cross that finish line first with the cab contests or showcases, and so thanks guys, and then
Yeah.
everybody kind of like they break the ice in the water, and then we start getting that flood of submissions, and so gotta love that.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I like seeing that early entries there, kind of get everything jump started, and then people we get kind of stale through the middle, and little ones trickle in, and then at the end we get the rush as usual, where everybody floods in. I'm guilty of that. I'm always waiting till the last minute to get it done.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but I
me
did
too,
make.
and then it doesn't happen.
We won't hold it against you
Right.
too much.
Go ahead.
But we did make one little change. So a while back, we made it like a single stone kind of challenge, just to kind of pull it back to just being all made out of one material, and without kind of as cool as they are with like image stacking, different layers and all kinds of cool things like that. We tried to simplify it back down to get more people in again, and with that, I did intend for it to be singularly one stone all the way through, but I did learn. This was something I had thought about previous, but I kind of wanted to see where I was going to go first, and it's made a little change for opals and amylites to allow those to be able to be either backed and or capped with quartz, because that's like pretty normal to do with those two materials, just to make them usable. Not everybody has big old thick crystal opals and stuff just lying around to make a solid cab out of. So I did kind of revert that rule a little bit, but just for that circumstance, not for adding anything extra to the cabochon itself, but just to make it presentable and usable, like if it were to go into jewelry as intended, right?
Perfect. Yeah, yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think that's an appropriate change, a little modification that should work for everybody. I think so. We'll play with that and see how that kind of goes down the line. And as always with the contest, it's there for you guys to enjoy, participate either in voting or in making cabochons. And also, feedback is always welcome. You guys can always reach out and let me know if things you like, don't like, or might want to see in the future. We can always kind of adjust things and see how it goes.
Yes. So what I like is it seems like the encouragement is really there for participation in I think we have a channel for everything. But to the point of complaints, but as far as the different areas of competition, I mean, you really can come as you are and enter jewelry or cabochon. It can be single stone. It can be like let your hair down and anything goes. And these are extremely appealing. So if the fit isn't there in one of the competitions, it probably there's a good fit for you in another. And people of all abilities have won the competition.
Oh yeah.
So
Yep, seeing a lot of variety and the winners across all the different little contests and stuff that we run. And they're all just for fun. It's cool just to see what people do. And then, for the more relaxed side of things, we have like the maker showcase, and then always just the dedicated channels to either, show and telling or polishing or tumbling or whatever it may be that you're into. So you can still have a relaxed experience participating in stuff. So I
for
think we
sure.
cover the board pretty well, but if there's something you think we're missing, let us know. We'll put it in the server possibly.
Oh, for sure. Right. Possibly, like, if it's for carnival rides or something like that, we might have issue. But yeah, for most normal things, we've been able to integrate. And I really appreciate you and Ryan and Ma and Theo and all of the other moderators. Like, we've got some demi moderators that are out there also that help out a whole bunch over there, and everybody's participation. Did I mention Ryan? I hope I did.
Yes.
Okay, good. For some reason, like, yeah, there's a cog missing in the or a tooth missing in the cogs there, but so if you are watching, you're invited to the Discord. It is a closed group, but the only reason for that is that, it does keep it to the folks that really are there because we all want to talk rocks and get help in our studios and all the things. And so, there, I know that the Discord link already went down the chat one time, and maybe if somebody could pop that up there, if there's a lurker out there that hasn't joined yet or something like that, or if you know somebody who would like to join. I know that Nomad Wishing Stone has been really great with kind of doing some lip service for us and getting some new people from some of the other communities. They're rock community people, and we have all of these like little nodes of rock communities. You've got like the TikTok rockers and people in different places, Facebook, Instagram. And it's so exciting when I see somebody that, like, I follow you on Instagram, you're not on YouTube, but you're over here in the Discord now. I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you feel like you've got somebody in mind, even that you want to toss a link and go, like, just check it out, that's totally okay. Use your discretion. The only reason why it's closed is that every now and again we have, like, an interesting individual flow through and we have to do a thing. But yeah, it's our sandbox. It's for everybody to play with their rocks and show them off and talk about them. When I mean, you guys have all gone through the holidays and bored several relatives with your rock talk. Now I know this has happened, and so these are your people. Like, they're
Oh,
they're not sleeping.
yeah, definitely. We can help with identifying or just how to polish certain materials and all kinds of things like that. Like, don't be afraid to just throw it out there and ask and see, because we can either get you the links or feed you with what we know from experience. There's all kinds of ways to help you along.
Totally. And so something has been going on over there on the Discord that kind of got us not entirely started on this particular theme, but there is a thread going that Ryan started that is definitely theme related. And so should I pop those pictures up and we can kind of get started into that?
Absolutely.
Especially since Caleb does front like the cab contest thing, and and a cabochon maker extraordinaire, a master, if you will. And so
You're kind.
that is the nature of our conversation tonight for sure. And so we'll get this up here and we'll remove that. Hold on a second. Oh, I'm just the master at this. Let's try this again. Okay, and so what we've got here, why don't you tell us what we've got here?
Okay. So privately, me and Ryan were talking about kind of some cab design theory. And he's kind of always asked here and there, like, how did you kind of come up with, the decisions you made when you were processing a slab and stuff? And I said he was talking about using a Discord whiteboard feature where we could kind of sit and talk together and kind of go over and show like what I might do or something like that. And then he ended up just throwing these out, creating a thread and throwing these photos out of some slabs that he had. He took pictures of both sides of two different slabs, and then he just kind of welcomed everybody to kind of take a crack at highlighting some areas of interest in cab form. And so that's what I did here. And so you can see just like a few examples here. I usually start off with like the chase ones. For me, what would be like certain areas that I'd like to isolate and like get out of a slab for sure. And then I kind of fill in some of the other areas that might be worth just kind of getting another cab or two out of. And so This was just the first side. This was, I think, my favorite side of this slab. Are you gonna pull up both sides? Can you hear me?
Sorry about that. I muted myself on account that Lily was, I don't know if you guys all heard her borking in the background. Um, so this is side other.
Right.
I don't know if it's side A or side B, but this is the other side.
Yeah, this would have been like side B for me. Less interesting, not necessarily less interesting, but I kind of felt you could get a few more cabs out of the other side. And that's not to say you couldn't squeeze this. Like you can see that area that I kind of disregarded on both sides of the slab. You know, you could still cut stuff out of that, but I definitely try to go for the juicy stuff first. And so the idea here was just to kind of show like how I would isolate certain characteristics of the slab to make a cabochon a little bit more interesting than just like, you know, running a bunch of ovals out of this, just kind of randomly thrown about, so to speak. And so
Yeah.
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. If I might interject just quickly, so you have a pretty, I don't know, almost signature uh approach to your freeform cabs.
Uh
And even, we see this oval here, and so, if anything, that's a surprise.
huh.
Um, and I don't know, Ma, if you're looking at that oval, there's an interesting hand gesture there at the bottom that is pretty funny. But so the the approach, I think, to just start at the very beginning is, do you typically like to use a stencil, or do you like kind of look at the slab and start having shapes come to mind? What would you tell a beginner who's looking at a slab that has some potential, like both sides of this rock? And how do you get started? Because I think that that's one of the hardest things, when you start cutting rock, right?
Right.
You don't want to
Um,
ruin it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially, you know, if it's like some expensive stuff, you might, you know, kind of process it a little bit differently than just something maybe like this. But I usually start off looking for like the thing that really draws me into it in the first place. And when I'm like digging around through slabs, I grab stuff, look at it front, back, be like, oh, that's cool. It's usually like one thing or so that really captures me. Is like I want to kind of go after that, and so I'll put it aside, maybe mark it out loosely with like a pencil or something, and be like, you know, this is the side that I was thinking, because I'll forget. You know, I'll sometimes I'll sit in here and just do that, just mark out a bunch of stuff and then kind of go for it later. And so I
Uh-huh.
usually start off going for like one thing first. And for me on this particular side of the slab, it was that lower left piece there because it had a bit of a mountain scene and kind of like this sun up in the sky.
Yes. Oh, I'm vibing so hard on that. I see that one, and that's the exact shape that I would use too. I love that almost guitar pick, triangle for exactly that. You nailed it.
Right. So that's like the first, and then it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to use that area up, and then it's like, okay, well, now where do I go? And so I'm always trying to think of how to incorporate certain elements to make a cab a little bit more unique. That way, it's just not kind of, I mean, you wouldn't really know if it was odd placement just seeing the cab itself. But when I'm looking at it in the slab, like you can see the one right above it, and very intentional with the direction I'm going with that, having a little bit of the tip be that red color, having this cool cream color, and then that brown kind of jutting up right from the top or bottom, however you decide to orientate that
Yeah,
cab.
everybody needs to, turn your head so that you see like that, yeah, that chocolate syrup is being poured into the center of like some cappuccino foam, and then there's some mocha there underneath. And Dad's Rocks, Phil has a question. Where's a good place to get cab templates that aren't the basics?
um, I know there's an account that I had followed on Etsy. I forget the name of it offhand. And I think they also sell on eBay as well. And they make a bunch of different, like, oddball templates. They have like a ton of them. They're kind of expensive, I think. Like I think they're like they average out over like $10 a piece, which is kind of expensive to me
Wow.
for
Yeah.
like what it is. So there's probably someone in the chat maybe might have a source for like some really good cheaper ones somewhere that I don't know about. I haven't I'm not really recommending I'm only saying that because they're like oddball. Some of them are like super out there that it's like, is this even practical? But a lot of them are. Uh,
So I
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. And then so you can do some searches, but some of y'all out there are crafty, and I have the tendency to like to do it myself. And so if I'm looking for a template for something and I'm not finding the shapes that I want, go find the shapes and make the template. Like you can always rip something on your copier. And then transfer that in a tracing manner, or however glue it on and cut the shape out, however it works for you. You can use a number of, like, a regular or a hot uh X-Acto knife with the plastic that they use for the soft cover. I used to use file folders all the time, the
Mm,
plastic soft covers.
yeah.
Like I just those were the very, very best things. I used to do a lot of airbrushing. And so I would make stencils for everything, to block different graphics. And I mean, it's the easiest thing if you kind of get out of your own way. And once you make a stencil, you've got that forever until you wear it out. I mean, if you literally wear it out, there it is. But like, you can keep on using that shape for as long as you need to. And that's a soft version. There's probably people out there that could make better recommendations for hard versions if you want.
Sure. For me personally, I almost never use stencils or templates or anything like that. If I want to do an oval for some reason, I will use them. But for squares, I can do by eye pretty well. I mean, I can do ovals by eye, but sometimes if I'm really trying to squeeze into a slab and get the most out of it, like I do with some things, I might, really, I know like my saw cut width and stuff for my little trim saw, so I can really stack up a bunch of ovals in like some dino bone, for example, and really try to maximize the area. But for all the other stuff, the freeform stuff, and even some of the other symmetrical shields and triangles and other things, I usually just do it by eye. Unless it's for like a custom job and someone's really wanting something perfect, it being off just like a little bit here or there, probably not like the end of the world. But I'm pretty good about making things pretty even, even in the free form sense. A really good tip for something like that, that I try to tell people, would be like your corners, when you're doing freeform shapes, is like getting those radiuses on your corners roughly the same can really like tighten up your cab, and make it a little bit more presentable instead of having like one really sharp kind of corner, one kind of real long corner. You know what I mean?
Oh, completely. And I think that this is probably where people feel like they need a template. But I honestly, like I eyeball everything myself, but that's also because I've done some hard time being an artist. And so like I love eyeballing stuff, but if you need to, folks, don't be afraid to use a tool. And so if you need to, you can, if you draw a T on in a shape like what we have over here. Let me go back to that. Say we have that triangle right there. That is the freaking crazy sun or whatever over the hills. If you draw a T for where the triangle is supposed to be balanced inside that rock, and you can do it on the back, and so you can always keep track if those corners are doing what they need to be doing. and that center is where the center needs to be. If you need that kind of level of exactness, then go ahead and give yourself some, some extra, and then you can always clean that up, especially if it's on the back. You can clean that up at the end. But
Right.
it can keep you honest, and most of the shapes that you see so far, and we can even move to the next slide, the one that Caleb likes more. You can see, for at the very least, the somewhat symmetrical shapes that you have, you can draw a form inside geometrically. If you like math and or geometry, you can draw something inside that will keep you honest to the form.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I love just winging it. I go
Oh
by the
yeah.
seat of my pants. That's more fun for me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. I definitely do a lot more free forms than like the symmetrical stuff. But it's they each have their place, and you'll see some of that here. But like in this one, for example, like I definitely love the symmetrical mountain scene going on the top there. Um, and these are kind of like creative choices that you'll see. Yeah, that you'll make as you're like, if you're looking at one side versus the other, because they're two very different pictures going on this slab versus the other slab. I mean, there's no sun, there's no like that one singular mountain or those little hills in the sun. It's completely gone. Some of the other little features are gone on this side, so it changes quite a bit. And just completely different directions being taken here. And so
Yeah.
it's instead of having the big triangle with the sun and that there, I've got the mountain scene up there. If you 180 it, you can kind of see that. Um, the the bottom one on the left hand side, kind of isolating that little bean there, having that cream color circling it, and then taking just a little bit of that red up there. That's all intentional decision making to just kind of grab little pieces of things, and that you can keep playing with that as much as you want with your shaping and all kinds of stuff, just to make it stand out a little bit more. Because that would make for a pretty unique cab. And then like the asymmetrical shield on the right hand side there, like that one edge that goes way off to the right, that's intentional to grab more of that brown strip kind of coming through there, so it kind of darting across at an angle across that shield. It's just, and then the other side just grabbing the little bean that's also there. So it's all little things, just
I
to kind
love
of make. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I love the explanations that you're giving because you're talking about composition. So, do you mind going for a moment into composition?
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I was doing. Like it's just like
Yeah.
grabbing those elements, and then also with like that asymmetrical shield on the right there. It's very dark heavy in the top. Like if you're think about it being like in a normal shield orientation, it's very dark heavy in the top. So I made it a much longer cab there to get some of that cream color to offset some of it just being that dark, which is nothing wrong with it, but it's just to add a little bit more complexity. And so I'm always playing with colors, patterns, and shapes, just like this, to try to make something a little bit interesting, like the little oval on the right hand side there, having the brown streak kind of go right through the center of it, and then having cream on top and bottom. It's just all little things like that you can use, little tools, and those are kind of filler cabs. So like for me, the top one, the asymmetrical shield, and then the triangle shape, those are like the three captures on this side. The others are kind of semi-interesting fillers just to kind of use up more of the slab. But I'll definitely say I would definitely promote cutting cabs that you enjoy. So if you want the three, get the three. If you want to cut the rest, spend your time wisely cutting things that you really enjoy. Don't feel like forced to just keep ripping into that slab to try to get all of it out.
Yeah, so there really does, that's wonderful. You touched on so many different really important points there. Like to gather. And so this will definitely be one where we're adding chapters so that you can go back and you can listen to some of this again. The patterns, textures, and colors part, really important as far as how you're gauging, because I know a lot of you come to me and are like, how do I get started making a good looking cab? If you don't have a uniform object in front of you as far as your material goes, then it is about choosing these things. Contrast, as you just touched upon, with the dark brown and making sure that there was some of that like cream in there is part of like the patterning or the coloring that is really really important. You know, if you were to grayscale a composition, does it all mung together, or do you have like striking elements? You know, these are the things that you don't notice when you see a good cab, but you know it's a good cab, but you sometimes don't know why. And these are the elements that you can kind of go through almost like a checklist if you are going through your shapes. And then the other thing that you touched upon with make it something that you love. You know, make it ring your bell. If it's
Mhm.
ringing your bell, it's probably going to ring somebody else's too.
Yeah, I mean, it's all subjective, right? What the things we're talking about here, it's all, it's all up to you what you like for starters. If you think it's cool, cool, run with it. Because like at least for me, I cut for myself first. Like I don't do this full time. And I'm not like mass producing cabs and just ripping through slabs like crazy. I do things that interest me first because I enjoy it, and then if someone else likes it, that's fantastic. But I do kind of somewhat keep that in mind. It's just a way that thinking about things like this is just a way of kind of elevating your cabs up a little bit, just to have a little bit more appeal and intent in them, and it can make all the difference in like because if you're really kind of putting some emphasis in there and capturing some of the details in certain ways, it can make your cab stand out from the run of the mill of that particular material, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. And so, speaking of particular materials, we have a different kind of material here, and you've gone about uh, finding shapes in a different way. Touch upon these.
Yeah, kind of similar concepts here. There's a lot going on in this, with all the little orbs in this rhyolite, and then different colors, a lot more of the browns and tans again. And so it's just kind of trying to find a little bit of contrast in here, capture certain little details. The orbs make for fantastic features inside, like that kind of egg-shaped one on the right-hand side there in the middle. Um, grabbing that whole little orb there, and then going up and kind of grabbing part of. I think I grabbed another little one there, um, and that
Well,
being
we've
kind of
got
like
two
the
sides
focal
to this
point.
one too.
Right.
I think that's yeah. And
This is
and
actually
so
the lesser side for me. I like the other one better. But this was just to show some examples, like some like in the top triangle. It's kind of high, taking just the similar color and texture in that, and highlighting that instead of it being so busy like the other one. So you can always, flip flop around in some of this, but it's just to show examples of how to grab something.
yeah, I actually, it's here's a thing where how many of you, and Caleb, you're included here, have drawn on both sides to see if you can get the best of both sides. And you flip it over and you see if you're overlapping on another, design, and you try to put the puzzle pieces together so that when you cut it, because I love that teardrop all the way to the right.
Hmm.
That's awesome. I love the little circle and then the big circle, and it's like framed by the teardrop. I'd be totally looking on the other side to see if I could like, okay, maybe I like the other side better, so I'll cut, but I'd want to save a few of the elements. And so let's go to the other side and see what we've got there. Okay, so this one's bonkers.
Yeah. So definitely a lot more fun on this side, in my opinion. The orbs, there's a lot more of them coming through, and ways to kind of isolate different parts and pieces of them. Obviously, I've got the big double eye one there on the right hand side, just like, and that just like that's so good by itself that you don't need to get crazy with the shape. You need that to be kind of the focal point of it. So maybe go symmetrical, and since it's already kind of tapered in a way, you could go shield or teardrop or whatever, and just let that be what you look at. It's always a game between shape, pattern, and color and all that stuff to try to make it interesting. I think the pattern here takes the cake, so you can simplify maybe the shape. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. In fact, I'm really, really glad that you touched upon this one too. In the art world, w- one of the best things that was ever told to me was that a frame is just the pimp for the artwork, right? and and I think that the shape can be really impressive, or if you're looking for a certain jewelry design, then that's going to change the shape of what you're doing too. But I love that you just like you don't have to go overboard with shape when you have such a like bombastic presentation of graphics, like especially that shield shape with the two. I mean, that is so perfect. You just don't have, just don't ruin it.
Right.
Like cut it and don't ruin that. And you're right. This particular side has so much going on that the fact that you came to the conclusion, even like I would probably be staring at this for quite some time trying to figure out what I was going to rope in. And I also really love the long one down at the bottom,
Oh yeah.
like
That
and Jewel.
radial kind of spray of pattern as it goes out and color and everything. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And jewelry makers are, like I get the benefit of having like I get to stand in each bucket. So I'm cutting and being a lapidary, but at the same time, I'm going, well, what's going to look good for jewelry? And that shape is so on fire, you know. Like some things you go like, this is going to be beautiful. This is going to be a beautiful cab. And then you kind of think like, well, what kind of jewelry piece, is that going to be a belt buckle or like a
Yeah.
brooch? How in the world is somebody supposed to wear this? And then at other times, and this shouldn't dictate, make a good cab, just make a good cab. But like, then there's times when you get to go ahead and play in both ballparks, and you're not only grabbing the good cab, but you're also making something that a jewelry designer can't wait to get their hands on.
Oh yeah. And very much something I've seen with some jewelers that I've met in person here. Um, they do so much ornate stuff with the silver around the piece that oftentimes, like their feathers or leaves or things that actually can sometimes curl over the cab and do whatever, are accents to things that you included in the cabochon. So it opens up doors for the jeweler beyond just, you know, doing stuff on the outside or keeping it simple.
Right. And so I love that you added that too. When your cabochon inspires, like just shakes down the brain of the designer, and they start with the cabochon. Like they're going like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do, but that cabochon is so hot. I'm gonna design a piece around that. Not like that will work with my design.
Right.
That I mean, that's kind of like an ultimate uh uh I guess ultimate achievement as far as cutting. If your intention is ever that this cabochon is going to go on and become a piece of jewelry, some cabochons are there for people to use as palm stones, or they are part of a collection. Some people display minerals that way, and
No,
so
yeah.
that's all good too.
Yeah, definitely. And so, just to get back to the slab itself, I mean, you can see just how I isolated a lot of little orbs and little bits and pieces of things. Like if I could grab on like the left hand little eyeball looking one in the center, you got kind of like the main orb, and then I went up and grabbed a little red and a little bit of the other orb, and it's just like little things. In the top, I grabbed there was three little ones together, so I thought maybe put those in with each other. It's just like I think at this point you kind of see the intention and like what the purpose of doing stuff like this can be, because sometimes it can be hard to see just staring at a slab. You're like, what do I? There's so many possibilities. What do I do? If you got if you got computer programs or a tablet and you got Procreate or something, you can just do this. Like I did these all four sides of these slabs. I think I did them in about like, I don't know, 10 minutes or something like that. Just rough shaped them out just to get the point across about grabbing onto certain things, and like once you see the left and right of that, and you can kind of go, "Oh, I see." Like it, or at least for me, it kind of checks. I hope it checks for you guys. Like just some of the design aspects of a cabochon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's helpful. It's helpful to see where these things come from, as far as like from slab to birth, on account that, again, I know that there's a lot of people out there that are just getting started. There's people that just got new tools for Christmas and they're all, getting excited about what their slabs look like. There's nothing like, I mean, it's, again, as an artist, it's like looking at a blank canvas. Sometimes it's like terrifying
Oh yeah.
to look at it, and you're like, I'm about to cut this thing. I really don't want to ruin it. I don't want to miss out on the opportunity of what this might present. And so going over some of this, like the beginning aspects of uh how to compose your cabochon is, I think, very, very valuable on achieving some of, what some of us might sort of take a little bit for granted, as far as, what, let's see, let me try to get that up there. So, whoop, we we got to see those ones really quick. Let's back it up a little bit. So we have some of your cabochons,
Sure.
and I thought, like, you can tell me which ones we want to look at, but you know, when we are working with different materials, you start having to consider different things also. Like, it's not just composition, color, pattern, the thing that strikes your fancy. Sometimes it's got something to do with, is it gonna fall apart, or it's got a chatoyant nature or something like that, which might slightly change your plans. So like, tell us about these particular cabochons, and then maybe address that.
Okay. So for starters, we'll start with the left, the Turritella there. The first thing that kind of drew me in with this section of this slab, which, they're usually fairly busy with all the different shells and stuff. But this particular section, I cut straight into the middle of the slab to grab this, because all of the shells kind of went towards like where the tip of my middle finger is right there. That,
Yeah.
like, they were all kind of pointing at that one little spot. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to see them kind of radially point out. And so I that was my first thought. And then as I cut this a little bit bigger than what you see here. And then when I got down to the shaping, I was like, what do I want to do? Because I could do an oval, I could do a big pointed oval, or whatever. And then I started thinking about the fact that it's shells that I'm working with here. And then so I went into like this shell shape, like a seashell kind of shape,
Yeah.
um, to kind of play on it a little bit more. Um, and so that's why that ended up with that shaping that it has, and it works really well with the rest of the composition. I feel like. What do you think?
I agree with you 100%. And what's interesting is, now that you say shell shape, once again, we intuit so much as far as viewers go. Like I said, you might love it, but you don't know what part of the composition is making you love that so much. I know it's good, but I don't know how to break it down so that I could do that, maybe. But like, in this particular piece, not only is the actual swashes and direction of the shells working, but yeah, that shell shape, I didn't even notice that, like, oh yeah, that does boil down to a shell shape. And like, like, I'm Steinkern woman. Like, I freaking love that so much. That's like the best piece of smelly shelly I've ever seen.
It was my favorite cab of this stuff I've ever cut.
Yeah.
And actually, it's currently missing. I don't know what I did with it.
No. A needle in
I
a
might have
haystack
sold
in
it.
your
I might
studio.
not have. I don't know what I did with it.
Well, that's a good thing, because I might have had to appropriate it had it not been gone already. So yeah, it's just incredibly successful. And it's kind of like we always used to say about when people used to paint babies. If you look at like Victorian art and art before that, and in museums and stuff like that, and sometimes the babies look like vultures or old men.
Yeah.
And but you know it's wrong, but you don't know why. You couldn't tell the painter, hey, like this is what you got wrong with that baby, unless it's just really
Right.
ugly, like it looks like an old man. But with cabochons, I often find that you're walking through, say, a gem show, everybody's like getting excited for Quartzsite and Tucson, and probably your local gem shows too, or you're looking at your own and you're going like, you know what, that makes me weak in the knees, and this other one is not doing anything for me, when you're picking them out of a
Hmm.
tray or whatever. And yeah, I think it's some of these things. And so if you can save yourself, like make the ones that make you weak in the knees. Tell us about this one on the right.
All right, so this is just a colorful piece of Dino, and what I really liked about the section in the slab that I had was that there was kind of like a very straight color transition, right? Sort of right through the middle there, where it went from like this yellow webbing with clear pockets to red pockets with kind of like a tannish brown webbing. And so I tried to split that kind of right down the middle there, and that was just kind of a design choice there to make it a little better.
Yeah. Yeah. This almost is a candidate for your half and half.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's subtle, but it's there. It's there enough that it was interesting, and I actually sold that the day that I showed it off to people, because someone really thought that was unique about it. So
Oh
I mean
yeah.
that sometimes that's all it takes is just something being unique like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed, it seemed like we had a challenge back a while ago, take a trash rock and do
Hmm.
something and make it special.
Right.
And I really like that principle because it, like, if you're clever enough with the way that you're putting your cab design together, yeah, you can polish a poo. And
Oh yeah.
like neither of these are that.
Yeah, I remember
Just to
mine
be
for that
clear.
one. I made that big basalt cab that had those huge tubes going all throughout it. To kind of like almost impractical to actually try to set because it would probably break somewhere, but still just really cool.
Yeah, yeah, and just I think that it was a good technique in looking for the cool in what you've got too. That's like exercising a good muscle there. And so in addition to this fabulousness, we have these guys here. The one to the left is one of my favorite of all time.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite cabs of all time too. This was for the cab contest that we host there. The theme was Live Edge. So inside there you've got those botroidal bubbles and obviously just cratering way up. And then if you actually notice on the upper left side, if you follow kind of the edge there, it goes that chamber goes further back in there on the back side, making it
Wow.
incredibly fragile.
You speak about it in past tense for some reason.
Yeah, it didn't survive. It's gone. It broke right about two-thirds of the way up on the left side. I had it in a display case and I must have jarred it somehow, and I don't know. It
Oh,
snapped right there, which is actually what happened to the other side. So the design with this actually had just on the left side coming down the right side. It was going to be double-sided like that and have it going right that crevice going right up the middle, and it snapped on me right across there too. So it's just kind of a game you play with pieces like that. I mean, it was incredibly thin. I left it intentionally a little bit thicker than normal, but not unreasonably thick for a cab, just to give it a little bit more meat so it would stay together. But yeah, it happens.
yeah, so Tara's Treasures is asking, she's saying, what a gorgeous piece. Yes, we all agree on that one. I wonder if you could kintsugi it.
Maybe, there's probably some things I could do. I was kind of toying with it, seeing what I wanted to do, even just to glue it back together so I could, and then put it back on display. Because this is like something I was never gonna sell or get rid of. Like it just mattered to me because I thought it was impressive on my own that I was able
Yeah.
to accomplish this. Um, But I'll do something with it eventually and fix it, and it'll go on display again. It's still, yeah, yeah, that
Oh,
was
it
tough.
yeah, yeah, it's really a cool piece. And so it looks like it's some form of a moss or flowering agate. What material is it?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. It is a type of moss agate that had these blooms kind of coming towards us versus, how we normally see it going across the stone. Just the way it was cut, it made the blooms kind of go up into those little spurts, which is cool. From a design aspect, seeing it sprinkled through, but having it on the, upper right-hand side, it gives you a little bit of stuff to look at there instead of it just being solidly yellow. It just happenstance to be that way. But as I was cutting it, I really tried to be careful to leave that there because I could have taken this a number of different ways to make it usable for the
Right.
live edge.
Yeah, it's just really, really successful. And that opal guy is saying the fact that it was made at all matters most.
Yeah.
And I kind of actually like, I not only agree with that, but I embrace it. That's basically what, if your craft is kind of going in the direction of art, then the fact that you're doing it, the creative aspect of it is really what is part of finishing it, even if it goes into a drawer or a closet. It's
Yeah.
it's the expression of it, it's the doing of it. And
Oh yeah.
so, that's another thing, like, don't stay frozen and shocked and worried that you're gonna ruin something by work them and express what you want to through your stones. And, some of them will work and some of them might fail, some of them might break. And that, I kind of love the lesson that this particular stone does, express on account that, yeah, you win some and you lose some, but the fact that it was done really does matter, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
try
I
it.
mean,
Like, it
when
might
I
fall
was
apart, but try it.
when I was cutting it, I knew it was looking really cool. But the only thing I was concerned with was just getting it done so I could take a picture of it for the contest. Like I was just like, just get it, just get to the finish line. Whatever happens after that didn't matter.
Right. Boy, I can't tell you how many projects I've felt like that about, like, as long as there's picture reference, then it happens.
Proof.
Yeah, exactly. And then if it combusts overnight or, an opossum breaks into my studio and runs off with it, I'm fine with that.
Right.
And so tell us about this gorgeous, gorgeous piece on the right.
I've forgotten the name of what this material is. But the way the seam went with this, the edges of the seam is where all that orange and character was coming in from the edge. So I wanted to keep that, and so that's why I ended up with kind of like this uh, tooth or claw type shape because I didn't want to lose that stuff. If I would have done it in a conventional whip, I would have lost it from one side or the other probably to make it a little bit more uniform of a cab. But it's got all the elements, got the little blooms on the inside there, and then all that cool orange stuff. And I just really wanted to keep that in there to frame
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and the reason actually why I put these two together is because they're of similar shapes, and if anything, kind of like the mood of capture was similar. You
Mm.
captured negative space literally in the first one, and then in the second one, you did like a really interesting like a frame job of
Right.
what was going on there, again working on contrast. And so the pattern color shape thing kind of comes into play here.
Yeah.
It just worked perfectly as far as your frame job went.
Yeah. I agree. That pretty much sums it up.
Yes, perfection. Thank you. Applause, applause. We've we've got our next set paired in a similar way. Almost like similar to almost same shapes, and then we're framing in a completely different way on each one. And so, yeah, tell us about these guys.
All right. So with the one on the left there, that's calico lace agate. And what's really cool about this stuff, just on the material level, is everywhere that you see that is white there, you can get it in like a purplish pink color as well. I've seen it kind of leaning more towards pink, and I have some that's very purple in that white area instead.
Ooh.
And so this was actually some, I have very little of the white. I wish I had more. But the tan stuff kind of blooms its way in there like that. And then I really wanted to keep the banding on the left hand side there. So that's why that shield kind of bows out on the edges on the left and right side a little bit more, to keep the shape relatively uniform, even though it's a free form shape. And then also make sure to keep that interesting stuff there. Because it was so, I don't know if you want to call this necessarily not really moss, but whatever it is, coming in on the right hand side. I really wanted to give it a little bit of contrast, so keeping that clear agate banding on the left was kind of important there.
Yeah.
Like even, I think even behind me here, I have another piece of that, and you're not that you're going to be able to tell very well, but it comes off flat when it doesn't have some of those extra features.
Oh,
This is just
yeah.
like the white and yellow. It's still very cool, but it's, not as interesting in my opinion. So that's kind of like the difference.
Oh, for sure. And so that's interesting. Now I'm on the other side.
Okay.
With this piece here, obviously you're framing the the bulk of the material is almost just the vehicle to frame the fortification lines.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that part of the cab is the swash that's, maybe taking up a third of the cab on the left-hand side.
Oh, yeah.
And, but what's cool about that is that you've got this cascade that's coming down the right-hand side of these, golden blooms, like kind of just, flaking on down. And if I'm looking at it from a compositional point of view, your eye flows from that top in these sort of golden cascades, and it gets caught by the fortification and the resonance of the almost ripple in a pond kind of thing there.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so like solid composition from like an art point of view, like a strong bottom third
Right.
catches the eye, and it cycles the eye back up, and to go down the water slide again.
Very good. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what you hope for when you're doing stuff like that, keeping the eyes moving and seeing everything.
Right. And so, sometimes trust yourself. If something is vibing with what you're looking at, go for it, because, it might get broken down like that from a compositional point of view, from somebody who knows what they're doing. And then yet if it's pinging on you, then do it, because it's probably doing something like that where it's like all of the interest points are there and keeping you in the cab, and it's interesting. It's like a good piece of artwork. What's going on here on our right-hand side?
Well, this was a piece of thunder egg from Oregon with a little bit of moss and going on in there. And yeah, it was like one of the, I forget, pressure ridges that you would see in a thunder egg when you cut it, where they go out to the edge. So this was just a really thin little seam that went out that was full of that moss, and then a little bit of green that was in there. And I just wanted to get that. It just seemed like perfect to get it in the center of a cab. And so I would go probably more something symmetrical for that kind of design, because really it's like the focus is right there through the center, and that's what makes it unique. If it's going through the center, make it the center of the cab.
Right. And so that's one of the reasons why I thought that this was a dynamic pair to put together, because the left one is asymmetrical, plus you have an asymmetrical composition. You know, the
Mhm.
strength is in that tension that's going on. What's cool about the right hand side is that, you know, the cascade is going right down the center and it's so pleasing that way. You know,
Yep.
in a way, it still gets to be asymmetrical because of the irregularity of that flow.
Yep.
But you framed it so that the interest, which is the moss that's going on in the cabochon, is what your focus is on.
Yeah.
I like
That's
that.
yep. That's it. It
Boom.
boom.
Boom, you did it. And you know, you've got some fans out there. Caleb, your work is awesome and talking
Appreciate it.
about having a good eye and all the good stuff. And so and Tara, we missed you too. So I'm glad that you're back on the Friday night ritual. And I think that we've got another one. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And so this is like an eye full of beautiful color. Let's have a look. Why don't you tell us about this one on the left?
that's Royal Aztec, lace agate. Uh, Pretty obvious freeform shape, and then I really wanted to get the crystal pocket as a part of that cabochon, and so that agate side coming from the top to the right hand side and then swooping down underneath. I tried to really keep that, and so this stone actually has a fracture on the bottom right hand corner that you can see. I left it in just because I wanted to keep that little bit of purple on the bottom, fully showing the natural quartz pocket there. Like I really wanted that little tip right there on the bottom to stay there to really highlight that quartz pocket, and keep that color flowing around. So that was kind of the design choice there. Um,
Wow.
you know, I thought no one would buy it because it had a fracture in it. It sold. Someone just fell in love with it. They didn't care. They just wanted it.
Oh
You know.
yeah. You know, and here's so I was really interested with this because there is there are dodgy materials to work with that we all work with, you know, like Larimar. You know, there's like things that can go wrong
Mhm.
and yet there, you know, one making sure that if you're going to pass it on to another person like via a sale or in jewelry or whatever that they know, but to have gone through trying to preserve that must have been so nerve-wracking because that could have cleaved at any moment.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, it definitely was, especially because and it's another thing where I kind of kept a little bit of meat on this cab just to kind of help keep it together. Because yeah, that fracture is actually going right into where the quartz crystals meet.
Yeah,
And
you can
if you
see.
don't
I
know,
love it.
when quartz crystals on a pocket like this come together, they grow into each other and they stop. So there's a pretty easy cleavage plane where they can kind of, you know, sometimes they interlock a bit to keep it okay, but it can definitely just go right across that whole corner.
It is such a it's a an exercise in holding your breath and patience
Yeah.
with this sort of thing. There are some really beautiful gems out there. This is one of them. A lot of crazy lace, some of the haunted ridge craziness that's coming out. Some other pieces that I've worked with, even some of the Arizona Rock Hunt expeditions that has their amethyst that they
Hmm.
have on their claim has this
Hmm.
exact thing going on. And you're going like, okay, as the cab designer, do I design this out of the cab so that I know that the thing is going to stay together? Or do I keep this as a feature because I love it and it's what makes this unique?
Good question to ask. You know, I apply more to you because you know, you do the jewelry side of things. So you're like, you really have to answer that question on both fronts because you use so much of the stuff that you make yourself. You know, I do very little of that. And so I'm just like, make the stone. You know, I'll either keep it for myself or maybe put it out to sale or whatever. I never really intended on selling. I usually don't put out things like this that have that kind of a damage because I don't, want to. I would feel bad if it broke after the fact. But sometimes I have things laying around in trays just to show people other things. Like I used to, probably why that one cab broke, having it in like a display case and, things happen. But
Yeah.
I will bring stuff out like that just to show people cool materials, even though I won't. They weren't really intended to be sold for that reason because it has a defect.
Right, right. And you practically talk them out of it before you let
Right.
them purchase. And yeah, in that regard, for me, what I'm thinking of is the pressure that you put the stone under when you actually set it. Say if you're going to do a bezel setting. Although I did just put this up. And hey, Cheryl, the purple frame is what makes this one beautiful. Good choice to keep it wrapping around the stone. And yes, the framing is beautiful. What it made me think of is wrapping. Like, some people, like maybe some other form of putting it into a jewelry piece, or if it is just going to be a pocket stone because somebody absolutely loves it. I mean, this is 3 fingers deep. And so, that would actually make a decent pocket stone. Um, these are things to consider if you're both making the cabochon, but also if you are looking at them as somebody who is getting ready to wire wrap, or that you're going to go ahead and set it. For me, this wouldn't be daunting to set. I would just make sure that I had like a pretty deep bezel on it,
Mhm.
and I'd be gentle when I threw the bezel around it and gave it a
There,
really
yeah.
solid backing. And I don't think that, and then once it's in a setting, that thing is going to be a beast. Like then there's really almost nothing that can happen to it once it's in the setting. Even if it was dropped on a tile floor, maybe if it hit like face first, but
Yeah.
like seriously, like, once they're set, you're set.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I mean
Yeah.
that can happen. I've seen it. I've replaced stones that have had that happen before. I've cut custom stones for like some jeweler friends of mine who need a replacement from one of their clients. They're like, just either they bring me something or tell me to cut whatever and put that back in there because that happened.
Yeah, yeah. And cheers, Kim. So yeah, that is something to be thinking about when you're cutting your cabs is, are you cutting the cab and is there a weak point through it? This is something that we look at a lot once again if we're cutting crazy lace or any of the multi hmm a stone that has lots of fortification lines, which might represent lots of different hardnesses of like quartz that is varying into a microcrystalline agate or macrocrystalline. I mean, this makes lots of cleavage opportunities. Water lines. I've got some spectacular waterline thunder egg that I'm getting ready to cab, but they love to cleave on a line, and so you get to find out if the stuff, I mean, if it survived the saw, you're already part the way there,
Yeah,
you know
it's got to survive that rough grinding.
yeah, yeah, but we'll see. These ones are Richardsons, and they alternate between quartz, agate, and opal.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that'll be
love
fun.
them. I love them. They're the coolest stripy little guys, and some of them hold together like they are just glue, and others will just fall apart line by line, like
Sure, yeah.
like a box of matches. You're going like, no.
Yeah, could see that.
So yeah, yeah. So that's just as far as techniques on approaching the making of cabochons, like watch your materials so that they don't fall apart in your hands. And when we first put up this slide, a bunch of people went, green. Tell us
Okay.
about the green.
All right.
So tell us about the green.
So this is part of a commission that I'm doing for some jeweler friends of mine, and they had been pestering me about this malachite chunk every so often when I would go and see them. Like, could this be something that would be worth cutting up? It was a really cool polished specimen that you'd see at any show, really. But it had these amazing. So it was like a grouping of stalactites, more or less. So like this one in particular would have been part of one of those little
Wow.
knobs that had these great patterns inside. And after a while, I found out, yeah, if you guys want, we can do that. We can start working on it. So I started cutting off some pieces and chasing out these more bubbly, groovy, funky, however you want to describe it, sections, and trying to get those into the pieces. And if you know anything about really super layered stuff like this, I mean, it can change so much from front to back, and kind of sometimes you just end up with what you end up with. But this one worked out as intended. The bubbles stayed really nice. They're all going from center out to those edges where you see the banding, typical malachite banding starting. And yeah, just framed in really well right there.
Yeah, it did. Hello, Tina. Yeah, and I think that we have a question that I'll pop up from the chat, but also, do you find that malachite gives you any fits, or how are you feeling about the
Oh
malachite?
yeah. Oh, for sure. Some malachite just fundamentally does not want to take a very good polish, almost like it's a little bit on the porous side, or it just kind of wants to stay dull. This variety, it takes a beautiful shine. I mean, I go up to 3K, it already looks great. And then I hit it with some Zam and it just pops like crazy. I mean, it's just wonderful to work with. I was so thankful for that because I've worked a bunch that just didn't want to polish up for some reason. And I'm not
Yeah.
gonna sit here and say I'm an expert malachite polisher. I'm sure there's probably some methods I don't use that would work great. But and then it can be kind of cleavy sometimes as well, depending on how well fortified the pieces are, especially with stuff like this. Um, I don't know if you can kind of see towards the center of that cab. There's like some little white dots kind of in the dark cracks between the Orby areas. Those are like natural voids from when those bits were forming up against each other. And so some of these, I don't think this one had it, but there was one that was big that was very similar to this, where the top side looked really good like this, and the back side was full of all of those voids. And I actually stabilized the backside to keep them from potentially coming apart if it was knocked or dropped or anything like that. So it can come apart. I've had a lot of these pieces end up being weird shapes because I would start grinding on them and they would just split or.
Yeah, I love that you just said that being freeform lapidary, because how many times have you come up with like a fantastic new shape because that rock was not going to be the plan?
Yep, pretty much. Make the best out of what you got sometimes.
Oh yeah. And I mean, like they've come up with cool shapes that I would have never come up with, you know? And I'm like, wow, that is, you are spectacular in that shape. And boy, I didn't have anything to do with that. I just, you broke.
Oh yeah, it happened a lot in cutting too, because much like I was saying about how these have natural voids and fissures in between the growth pattern. When I was cutting this stuff, sometimes I'd be cutting along to make a slab, and it would just break. And I'm like, "What happened?" There's like so much left. Well, just from the pressure of pushing it into the blade, it would get into contact with like a larger void, and then that would just shear off that way. And so I
Oh,
ended up just
wow.
getting to look at these really cool like if you've seen malachite in voids like that, how it has like a crystalline shape, it's real sparkly green,
Oh,
fibrous
yeah.
almost. And
Yep.
you could see a lot of that in those fissures and stuff in there. So they've all got their little caveats. This one has those kind of things, but it polishes great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I like hearing the stories behind that. And once again, the shape of this is so perfect for what it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, the pattern is what defined this cab. There was no need to get crazy with the shape. I mean, everything you want is right there, so simplify the rest, right?
Yep, it exactly, a maneuver in that, direction. So Romania is asking, how much time do you spend on ags in the first 2 grits?
It kind of depends. Some agates kind of are a little bit softer than others. So like Montana is obviously notoriously hard, and some other types that are pretty brutal on the wheels. But it really depends on the status of your wheels. Mine are a bit used at this point, so sometimes it takes me a little bit longer to get through them. The real answer is how much time? It's as long as it takes to get the scratches out. Like with the first one, it's just getting your rough shape out as close as possible, and then you jump to the next one, get those scratches out, finish your shaping, and then jump into 280. It's really with any stone. It's just as long as it takes.
Yeah.
It can take a while sometimes. It just depends.
And it sounds like the kind of the worst crass answer, when when somebody will ask me that kind of question, and that's exactly the answer that they get, is it takes as long as it takes. Well,
Yeah.
okay, fine, whatever.
Is it the size of your cab? I mean, is it how much
Yeah.
material are you trying to hog off? Like it's just there's no straight answer to that. It just takes a while because you're getting
Yeah.
the bulk of it off, and it's hard material.
Yeah, and I mean, this is also a good point. It depends on how it was cut, or if it was cut too. Like my 20-inch saw blade leaves ruts in the road on my cab, or on my slabs, and so there's a lot of polishing involved, because I mean, it is such a varied, like there is some deep subsurface scratching from the blade. Um, Whereas, some finer blades are going to leave much less scratching. And so you can go straight to certain grits and not have to worry about subsurface and that sort of thing. And as you said before, you've got different things going on for even the agates, like Montana agate, settle in, you know?
Right.
Uh, and then you've got some other agates that seem to like I have some of my crazy lace agates
Yeah.
that go so fast.
Yeah.
They go so fast. I'm going like, whoa, like, they're still hard enough to not have, like, say, faceting going on. But,
You
like
can
I
hit
have
some
to watch
soft
it.
layers in that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is definitely up to the stone and up to the feel, and so, that's one of the things that keeps you honest, that you gotta stay awake at the wheel the whole time, like, literally at the wheel.
Yeah. Sometimes I usually put on like something on my phone or my tablet off in the corner away from my machine when I'm hogging on some big agates and stuff for cabs. I'm not watching what I'm doing half the time. I'm going like this.
Right, right. Well,
It
yeah,
takes a while.
that's the Montanas are like that for me. I'll take in a show, like,
Hmm.
just for shaping and cleaning
Yeah,
it
yeah.
up.
Hmm.
Especially if it's a thick slab, you're
Right.
you're in for some time, some hard time shaping. And this actually brings up another point that I wanted to make sure that you touched upon, literally, is that you've talked before about how important your fingers are. So could you
Oh,
tell me a
sure.
little bit about that with your cabbing?
Yeah. So I see with my hands and my fingers a lot, and I know that seems kind of silly, but eyeballing something. Okay, so oftentimes, like you'll see people dry off stones in between stages just to clear it off so you can see the scratches and anything that they might need to touch on. A lot of times when it comes to just the general like shaping, getting this dome even, I go like this, and I don't want to dry it off every time to see that I and eyeball it. I'll just do this while it's still wet, and I can feel like, oh, that there's kind of an edge there, or I need to round off a little more, or this half feels a little high. Let me work that down a little more. So I work without gloves, for that reason, because I can't really feel with gloves on or anything like that, and so yeah, I see with my fingers, and I do this a lot. I can feel little imperfections sometimes. You get kind of used to what you're doing, and yeah. So
I loved that you said that, because I don't think I was aware as to how much I did that before we were talking about that, because I don't dry them off very much until I get to some of the finer wheels, because
Sure.
then I'm I'm glassing it. I'm trying to see, okay, like, do I have any issues with, again, subsurface scratches or something like that with some of the softer materials,
Oh
you
yeah.
wish you had.
Hmm.
But that tactile, your braille information that's coming from the cab when you're on, like, for my machine, my first three wheels is golden. You feel the flat spot. You
Hmm.
feel, you can feel if it's, if there are still facets and stuff like that, and you don't even need to, you really don't need to look at it. And I think it's valuable that way, because sometimes the eyes can be deceiving, especially if you've got a very colorful, interesting stone with a
Oh
lot
yeah.
going on. Your eyes get like totally discombobulated, with, say, like, again, crazy lace agate, or some of that, the radial nature of that rhyolite, the, what is it, galaxy,
Oh yeah.
that, you know um some of these things can have some different hardnesses in the features. And so you might have some lumps because some of it's like
Yep.
wearing away a little bit faster and that sort of thing. And so, lighter touch and keep feeling.
Yep.
And your fingers are going to tell you way more than your eyeballs can when it comes to that, unless you're loop dry and, like, looking at that surface. But again, like, if you're it, then, how time consuming is it that you're on the wheel and then you're drying everything off and glassing it again and then drying, and if you just can feel it.
Yeah, yeah, and don't get us wrong. You definitely should dry and look at your stuff for scratches for sure. But I'm mostly doing the feeling on the first half of the machine. So like from 220 and then I get into 280. That's when I'm doing that. I'm not doing that anymore after that because the shaping's basic, more or less done depending on the hardness of the stone. Um, and so it's really just in that transition. I don't even do it on like the 80 wheel. Like I just go, it's just on the 220 and 280, and that's your jump from hard to soft. It typically you can get wheels before that, but or in between there. But yeah, that's really all it's at. But it helps a lot. It's just kind of fast and easy, and if I'm really kind of feeling, then I will definitely dry it, check a little bit further.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially when you know the usual suspects that you need to be checking for those scratches all the time, like, obsidian, turquoise.
All right.
Things that, like, okay, I know that the scratches are there, I just need to find them so that I know where to
Yeah.
spend some extra time.
Hmm.
Yeah, just,
And that's really important to yeah, too, because even with like varicites and turquoises, the softer stuff. I mean, you can vary in hardness. Like I've worked Royston that has the beautiful green and blue, glossy, hard, super hard turquoise, and just a few millimeters away is the chalky stuff. And so it
yeah.
can, you're constantly playing the game of getting that right.
Yeah, yeah, I've definitely had some Vericite that was so hard because, you're getting undercutting
Mhm.
and stuff that, you really want to try to stay away from. And so, since we've kind of run the artistic and the creative gamut of the that side of cabbing, what would you do when you're running into some of these disasters, like, say you've got a piece that's undercutting, or you notice some crazing in a piece, like, what's your usual line of action for things like that?
For the crazing part, if I've got a little bit of bulk to the cab, like if it's still early on, I can try to see if I can work through it. Because sometimes the fractures or anything like that might just be kind of surface level or whatever. But if there's just a big gnarly crack to it, I'm chopping it up and making smaller cabs or just scrapping it, maybe depending on the material. For the multi hardness stuff, I really try to this is actually a pretty good one. I don't see a lot of people do or talk about, but it's something that I do for turquoise and varicite that has multi hardness. Is I'll do a mixture of working on my machine and using wet and dry sandpaper to achieve a decent overall cabochon, if that makes sense.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like working the hard area as best I can on the machine to get that right, and then if I can, just doing some wet and dry hand polishing. It really doesn't take that much, and it can get scratches out or fat, more importantly the facets out, without causing too much reshaping and undulation in the piece. And so I'll give myself some slack there. Like if I just really want this piece to come out, if it's like a little bit wonky, it's probably not the end of the world. You know, try to polish it up the rest of the way, see what happens. Maybe you know, because some people really don't mind that and actually like a bit of texture in their stones. So like turquoise and things like that. So there's that. There's kind of that way to deal with that. And I'd say that's really what I do with a lot of things. If I'm struggling with multi hardness, it's really just mix of machine and sandpaper.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I think throwing different angles at a problem, you know, and sometimes you don't know the solution. So there's an angle, everybody. There's a tool for your toolkit. If what you're doing, be it like a flat lap or the wheels, or if you're on a rotary tool or something like that, you know, change, you might need to change it up and open up some different possibilities. And there's nothing wrong with doing something by hand, a step by hand. And some of the materials are well worth it. Like a good turquoise piece is going to be worth your extra
Mm.
little bit of time there. Tara's Treasures is asking, given all these variations, what would you recommend for beginners? What's a standard rock that is good for learning? Good question.
That is a good question. I'm gonna do one. Okay, so I would say go for uh, a colorful jasper, something that maybe a little darker in color, like a medium to dark tone. It's gonna be your best friend for, and make sure it's kind of like even, like solidly a color more or less. That way, there's no distraction. And what is the jasper provides the hardness that it takes more to kind of work it away. So you don't want to, you know, you can learn on turquoise if you like, but there's going to be a bit of a learning curve because it's so soft. Whereas the harder stuff, it just takes more time on the machine grinding away to get your shaping and your girdle and your dome and all that right. And what's really nice about having like a even color tone across is that as you're going through, it's easier to see your scratches because they're little white lines, little nicks, little things. Like they're easier to spot on something like that. Um, Whereas if you have a busy stone with different colors, like especially with like lighter color tones, it can be much more difficult. Like a crazy lace, I would say, I mean, you could do it, but I would say maybe don't because it can be harder to see your scratches. Yeah, it's also more forgiving, I guess, in a sense that you're not having to necessarily look at them if you can't find them. But
Yeah.
the principle there is just to see the mistakes that you're making, because like that's the big part about learning is knowing when to go from grit to grit, making sure that you've got everything you need to get out from the previous grit, because that's why you make the jumps that you do. And so being able to see the scratches, like over time you learn, with enough experience, you see, you can get like, oh man, those are 280 scratches, or those are still hard wheel scratches. Like you kind of learn that stuff as you go along with this. And so it's just getting the experience between each one. And so having something like that that's like opaque, easy to see the mistakes, and that's like the best thing I could say to learn on.
Yeah, I can't agree enough. And also much cheaper than trying to work on a stone like turquoise that's going to cost you some money if you make some mistakes. And so if you've got like some cool turquoise that occurs near you, or you know, it's abundantly easy to get.
Mhm.
Not only is that like a good stone to start with, a solid stone to have as a keepsake because it's still, you know, a worthy stone to polish,
Right.
but also that whole thing about shaping it, pardon me, it's solid enough to not go too fast
Right.
so that you can get your shape without over cutting,
Right.
you can sneak up on the shape. And then if you have some weird wonkiness, then you can sneak up on the fixes. Everything goes slower. And so in some ways people, it's counterintuitive. Like, why would I choose a really hard stone to do
Right.
for my first time, because it's going to take longer? But it's because you get to sneak up on
Right.
the
You,
perfection.
especially as you're starting, you don't know what kind of pressures you use. And I see Ryan's comment here about dopping. Yes, fantastic. If you, I mean, if it's big enough, you can do it by hand. You can do it by hand, but dopping allows you to have a little bit different kind of pressure system because when I'm cabbing a stone with two hands, something like this that I would be working on, it's me holding it like this and pushing it up against the wheels. And so you're kind of having like a 3 point pressure, right? You're using the pressure to hold up against. Whereas with if you have a dop stick, it can kind of free you up to do a little bit lighter pressure, especially on softer things, turquoises and stuff. It lets me kind of hold back and still be able to have good movement instead of like if I'm doing it by hand and I'm trying to do like the doming, I'm kind of pushing up against, which can cause a lot of stuff to work away faster with softer materials. So having that dop stick lets you kind of have a pull it back a little bit.
Yeah. I think that learning the touch is really really important. So that goes for any of the methods. You were talking about drill and Dremel as well, the rotary tools, and
Hmm.
coming in from that angle. Um, these are all worthy places to start and to
Hmm.
continue. And I still will cab some opals with my rotary tools
Oh,
because I don't want to go as fast as
hmm.
my cabber goes.
Right.
Like, I want to slow way down. Like, if I'm happy enough to be having some lightning ridge, I'm probably going to slow it way down
Right.
because yeah, I don't
You could
want to
be
take a
chasing really
tiny.
thin seam.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
and if it's a tiny stone to begin with because it's black, yeah.
mhm.
I'm probably gonna do that by hand. And so if anything, I think that one of the first mindsets to put yourself in, if you're approaching you've done the template, you've cut with the saw, you're into a preform, and at that time, I think is the very best time for you to have all the time in the world and to have patience and to really allow for yourself to explore that stone
Mhm.
and let it reveal itself in its own time, on account that anytime I've ever tried to speed through a stone, it's a complete failure. Like,
Fair
I
enough.
do I do not like, it's not that all of the stones take a long time for me. Some of them go very quickly, but they go quickly. I
Mm,
can't go quick on the stone,
mm.
or else it's probably not gonna, like, I'll get to the end and I'll do my cerium and I'll go, "Yep, you get to go back." Which
I've done,
yeah.
I'm guilty of it too. We probably all are. Just like, I know what I'm doing, and you just kind of zip through the wheels, and then you get done, and you're like, crap. The big old scratch right there in the center of this cab that I didn't get
Right,
done.
right through the front.
Right where everybody can see it.
Right, you're
But
going to take the picture of it, like, like I've slid into the finish line, just like what you were saying about the one cab. Now I'm gonna take my picture, and then you go with the phone, and the
oh
phone will
yeah.
always show you.
Oh yeah.
You
That's a
want to
I
know how bad your cab is.
zoom in on it because it'll tell you. There, because
Right.
sometimes, especially with certain materials, like I said, that are kind of hard to see scratches, like crazy lace and some other real wild stuff. You won't even know until you zoom in on it and you're like, oh shit, there's actually like a big old scratch right there. And you couldn't really see it by eye necessarily.
Right, right. Yeah, it's happened to me plenty of times. I'll be taking the sexy shots at the end, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," like, "Yep, you did that late at night." Yeah, all blurry-eyed. So, yeah, back to the wheels. Now, also, it's not punishment to go back wheels.
No.
Some materials you're just gonna,
Uh-huh.
like obsidian, you're gonna go back wheels.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that's just
It takes
kind
some
of
work to get that right. Yeah.
nature of the beast, and it's like it's all a good learning experience. And so that's why I guess I say, don't feel like you have to go through too fast through it, because like some of those learning experience, allow yourself to make some failures, allow yourself to make some, that like Theo's favorite fail forward thing. And yeah, it'll help you in the long run, not get so frustrated that you're throwing stones through your window.
Yeah. I'm gonna give a back to Tara's question just about um the learning side of things. Focus on three things. You don't necessarily have to focus on your shaping. That's something that you'll work on as you go, just kind of naturally. Focus on getting your scratches out, and like knowing when to jump from wheel to wheel and when to go back. Focus on learning how to get your dome relatively even across, and then and the same with your girdle. Like if you, because those are just three really fundamental things to make a good cabochon, and that can elevate your cabochon above others. So one of the things, just personally in my own experience, that I've had a lot of silversmiths that I know locally have talked to me about, was that they hate buying mass produced cabs from overseas. Yes, they're cheaper, they're always readily available, you can get pretty much anything you want and however much of it you want to get, but you can get such variance in the cut quality, where there can be either scratches, wonky edges, wonky girdles, and that makes setting things for a jeweler a bit of a nightmare. Can you still set most of the stuff? Absolutely, in most cases, but you want to have as good a clean up product as possible. And so I've got people who have stopped getting overseas cabs for that reason, and they usually just buy my inventory because they're looking for that more attention to detail. And so that just comes from fundamentals. I mean, anybody can just learn that. You don't even have to have good material. It's just practice those three things on anything that you have. And your cab, that already elevates your cabs above the mass produced stuff. Better for
This is
jewelers.
such a good point. And it's so true. The variation out there is, just shocking. And one thing is that if you are a lapidary, and you're looking to set some stuff or practice, you can buy some of those bad cabs and you can fix them, and that makes for a great preform. And so if you're cleaning up somebody else's mess, that can help you clean up your own,
Oh
from
yeah.
start to finish. Sometimes it's easier to see what's wrong with something that has already been finished wrong, and just be able to tackle the solutions. And then when you experience those solutions, or rather those problems in your own cab as you're going along, you'll be like, yep, that's what happened to that person. I know how to fix it because I fixed it on that bad cab, and then you kind of double your pleasure, if you will. And that's a heap of help for those of you who don't have saws out there. If you don't
Um,
have a saw and you're looking for material to get better on, you can improve upon some cabs that are out there already, and you can get them for relatively cheap. And
yeah.
and that makes the world better.
You know, check your local spots, or your usual spots like eBay. I spent loads of time fixing cabs. I still do that to this day.
Yep.
I was doing that yesterday, where I bought some cabs from somebody, and they just weren't cut very well, not up to like my standards anyway. And so I'm fixing them, fixing girdles, fixing domes, fixing scratches, fixing shaping, all kinds of stuff. It's just like, why not? If you can get a good price on something like that, like I've bought out lots of cabs on eBay before, just like mixed, like if I was like, man, I just don't like all these that I made, and I threw them out there on, just somebody selling like 70, 50, 40, 30, 10 cabs that are just mixed whatever. You get them and you go, oh man, this kind of need a little bit of help. And then
Yep.
you just rework them. Most of the work's already done. You're just fixing the scratches or the shape or the girdle or what dome, whatever.
Yeah, that's
Fantastic.
great practice at a good price. You can pick up a parcel of mixed cabs like Caleb's talking about for kind of pennies on the dollar. And so that's a good place to start if some of you are wondering, especially if you've got a rotary tool and you're trying to kind of like cut your teeth with that. Having preforms like that is, you're
Mhm.
doing yourself and your equipment kind of like a world of good there. Jeff is saying thinner slabs are easier to leave scratches on the top, can't get a good dome. So
Yeah.
I thought that this was a good point to bring up as far as ratios when you are looking at a slab and you're planning your cabochon. You need a certain depth for the dome and the girdle to fit into. What's your rule of thumb? What would you tell people to be looking for there?
I usually try to give about an eighth of an inch girdle. So that's like that's just your setting edge, right? And so that's the minimum. And then you're trying to achieve dome above that. And so I can cut cabs out of 3/16. I prefer quarter, then I can work it down and have a little bit more freedom to dome how I like. Sometimes I like to make higher dome cabs, and so I would want thicker things for that. But yeah, definitely what you're saying. Like I was working a piece, I have it here behind me on my machine. It's this beautiful oval agate, white agate with these little orbs and stuff in it, and it came less than 3/16 thick. And so I've already got my girdle edge down to like almost a 16th of an inch, which is like half of what I would prefer, and it's still really flat. And I'm battling scratches. I'm spending, I don't have a good. I would prefer to have another machine or and have a lower grit or yeah lower grit cushioned wheel to jump from the 220 down to like an 80 or something or 120 resin cushioned wheel just to kind of speed up the process because sometimes the 280 I'll spend some time on that 280 trying to get those scratches out, especially as your wheels break in more. They become a little less effective in getting that out fast. Like it'll still get it out fine, it's just gonna take me longer. And so I was just messing with it. I spent a few minutes on it, had some scratches, still got to work on it.
That is great. Not only information, but also I'm inclined to agree with you as far as that wheel goes. It would be super cool to have that demi step if you need to go up and clean on account that boy, for my Novas, that black wheel gets just like the lion's share of work, and I
Oh
know I'm
yeah.
going to be wearing through that thing, the fastest.
It's typically the one that wears out the fastest. Your first jump from hard to soft that usually wears out the fastest.
Yeah, yeah. And so they're talking about in the chat right now the difference between polishing a dome and just like a flat face
Yeah.
and how different that is and how much more difficult it is to do the flat face.
Yeah. It's way more difficult. And it's difficult to do it on a cab machine as well. It doesn't usually come out super well. And that's simply because like say if you're familiar with using like a high tech or something, a flat lap, or even from your saw, if you want to start from there, any little scratch, doesn't matter how deep it is, you have to take the entire surface that you're trying to polish down to that depth to get it out. And
Yeah,
that's what
that
takes
one
a
scratch.
right. And that's if there's one, yeah. So whatever the deepest one is, you have to take the entire surface down. So obviously, the bigger the specimen that you're working with, the longer and harder that is to achieve. Es- Especially when you're making the jump from like a hard disc or a hard wheel to a cushion, or felt wheels like the high techs have. That's
Oh.
usually your biggest struggle point is when you make that jump, trying to get those scratches out because it doesn't want to do it as fast. And with
It's so true.
electroplated discs, and same with wheels, it's that one little diamond that sticks up that
Yep.
rips a
Yep.
big old deep scratch. It is what it is. But
Yep.
that's the difficulty. So in cabbing or specimen doming, to make polished rock specimens, whatever, the more dome you give it, the easier it is to get the scratches out. They work out just that little bit easier. The flatter you go, less dome, the more difficult. It's like I said though, it's helpful to have like those in between steps. Like if I had like a 80 or 120 or whatever cushioned wheel, I could rip through those hard wheel scratches on that, but a little bit better. For that shallow dome, but I don't. So
Yeah. And so like I feel like it's worth mentioning here quickly with opal and some of the softer or finicky stones, it's kind of important to bring them to the least amount of abrasive first. I mentioned subsurface scratching, and
Mhm.
basically what Caleb just said about, that one diamond that is scratching deeper than the rest of them, say on a wheel or something like that. It often happens either because of your saw or because of a wheel that you've already submitted a gem to, that there's a scratch that is going deeper than the others, literally just subsurface. And the tricky part about them is that it's part of the texture of all the rest of the scratches. It's just one of the other scratches for the longest time, and you keep on polishing. And when you get to a fine enough polish that you've done the rest of the other polish or scratches in, that's when you find the one scratch. And you will be thinking to yourself, I have a contaminated wheel. I have contaminated something, because all of a sudden I see this one scratch. And the thing is that, some proportion of the time, it's because that scratch was there and you have just polished up to it. You've polished everything around it and now you just see the one. And so I would caution both ways. Like, try to start with, a grit that, like with opals, I will definitely, in some cases, I won't even put them on my metal wheels. Like, they go straight to the resins. And then also, the if you've gone through your different stages on your flat lap, on your wheels, and you see like a few scratches, don't just assume right off of the bat that you have contamination, because I know some people do. And then, off to like high tech they go for another set of new laps or something like that, where you might actually have an offensive metal lap that has a high diamond on it.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, you're consistently contaminated, or try not using that one lap and see, like, start an elimination process and maybe do some experimentation, because you might have a different problem going on.
Right.
So there's troubleshooting to be had in some of this stuff too, because nobody loves scratches when you're about to go to, say, your cerium or your final polish. That sucks, but it
Oh
does.
yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of this. We just don't have access generally to a lot of the equipment that people who do really good flat polishing have. Like, you can get the stuff, but the stuff is usually kind of expensive, and a lot of the stuff I've seen has actually been kind of homemade improvements on things. So I've got several friends that I know here that are in my club, and they're like world class flat polishers on big stuff, and they get all their scratches out, and their surfaces are like perfectly flat. And
Wow.
it's not done on flat laps. It's not done on cab machines. It's done with, uh, you know, um, silicon carbide grits on big rotating plates, and all these things that have to go right for it all. Like, you have to have your water being applied properly, your grit being applied properly, speeds, weighting things so that they stay and get the right amount of grit underneath them. And then it can go to stuff like the big bull wheels, which are big, like kind of like a cab machine, but they're big
Yeah.
silicon carbide sanding wheels that are kind of firm to get, and then you can, and what's interesting about some of that stuff is like you can do things in like three phases. So you can
Yeah.
do stuff like on the silicon carbide in one grit, jump to the bull wheel in one grit, and then go straight to cerium. You know, on like carpet and things like that. Like you can jump a lot of steps.
We do that in faceting.
Mm,
Some stones you can cut at say 600 and do a 3000 and then you're on to cerium,
mm,
and so there, yeah, and that's actually it brings up something that Romania just said too. So there are ways to cut your corners also. You can figure those things out as well. But she mentioned the fact that sometimes those scratches come from a stone also.
mm-hmm.
And going back to faceting, I thought that I thought I was contaminating my cerium lap, and it wasn't diamonds. It was with the sunstones that I was faceting at the time. And it happens a fair amount with the sunstones now that I know what the problem is. When you hit one of the cleavage planes with a facet, they start to flake off, like
Mm-hmm.
just like little itty bitty particles are just sloughing off of the edge of the facet, like dandruff. It's flipping
Mm-hmm.
gem dandruff, and those will scratch itself.
Oh wow.
And so you're pulling it across the cerium and you're like, here's like not only scratches on this face, but the face that they sloughed off of also has a problem.
Mm.
Ow. And you're going like,
Well,
why?
and another funny thing, kind of like that, and this is something I learned from one of my friends who does this. He uses carpet and cerium to do his final polishing, and he has them on. He has a big rotating bit of carpet that has barriers in it to hold things in place a little bit. But he also has it so that they go back and forth like this. And then aside from that, he actually has to rotate them 90 degrees every few minutes, because if he leaves it just ripping through on its own, just like staying in the same spot, having the same carpet pattern go over with cerium, it'll actually grind grooves in with just cerium and carpet. It'll grind grooves into your flat face.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have, it's like, and that doesn't make sense. You're like, that's 50,000 grit. Well, it's 50,000 grit going by, but the carpet has its own bit of, in a sense, grit, even though it's like way soft. But it's
Yeah.
just enough with the speed and the rotations per minute that eventually it will wear grooves in if you don't keep like turning them.
That is wild. It's wild, but I have seen some stones, especially very, very small stones that I've cut on the polish.
Mm.
Like, I'm still cutting the stone on the cerium or on
Yeah.
the 50K diamond. I'm like, I'm on there just, finishing off. Like, there was this pink tourmaline that it turned out to be a 3 millimeter pink tourmaline. It was tiny. And I was still cutting on the 50K. I was
Oh,
just,
wow. Yeah.
yeah, like so everyone just got like a couple swipes, or
Hmm.
else I was gonna overcut a flippin' facet,
Oh, wow.
with the polish. And so, yeah, these are the, like, funny little devils in the detail kind of
Yeah.
problems. Don't let this be daunting. That you've
Hmm.
got a long way if you're just getting started to get
Sure.
anywhere
Yeah.
close to any of these little finicky problems. But
Yep.
yeah, does do any of you people in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out. Do you guys have any questions, like in additions to the ones that you were so generous to offer throughout the discussion? And also, do you have some things that you want to touch upon, Caleb?
Um, do. I don't know. I wouldn't get too hung up on, pattern chasing and things like that, I guess, if you're just starting. I mean, you're free to do whatever you want. I mean, like when I didn't have a teacher when I started doing this, I just jumped around and chased things around and destroyed stuff and just worked my way through it as I learned. But you can do that. That's cool. It's fun. But you know, if it's like something like to kind of be an opposite of like what we were talking about with like design elements. You know, I've got like this piece of rhodonite here that is just kind of evenly, more or less, textured across the entire piece. And so there's really not like, I mean, there's like a little bit you could maybe do with this one just because there's like a little bit of an area here. But you know, if you have something like this or something like a really dense moss agate, you know, you can't go wrong with anything that you decide to do with that. So sometimes those are kind of nice to kind of not have to worry, you know, not think about, you know, you can just draw a shape on this or freehand something or whatever and just go for it. And there's no wrong answer when you
Right.
process this. You know, you can make an argument with some picture jaspers that there's a wrong answer there, you know, but like for something like this, there's no wrong answer.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. And again, back to, you know, what to start with. It's fun to start with something that there are no wrong answers, you know. And you can do like I would say some of the shapes are easier going than other
Hmm.
shapes too. Like a soft triangle or something like that is really, really forgiving because
Oh,
it
yeah.
can be asymmetrical and not, not tell
Still
on
look
you for the problems you had.
right. It can still look super clean.
Yeah. A circle, a perfect circle, not a good shape to start off with.
Not really. I still don't like doing them. Like I will do them sometimes. I don't enjoy it. It just
Right.
takes longer, you know,
Yeah.
because like to my eye, when there's just that little bit of wonk, it bugs me, and that usually requires going all the way back around trying to fix that.
Here's something that you actually started the conversation with the shapes with, and I would love to cap it with is that if your shape looks wonky, check your girdle first. Because if you
Mhm.
have an uneven girdle, then it's going to appear like your shape is actually malformed because
Oh.
the dome isn't starting at the same place throughout the stone. And so if
Hmm.
you have an asymmetry on a symmetrical stone, check your girdle
Yeah.
first. You might have an accurate shape, but you just might have an uneven girdle and dome translation there. And I was doing this last night when it was late at night. I kept on reworking the center point of my cab, and it wasn't the point. The
Hmm.
point was not off, Karen.
Hmm.
It was that the one side of the girdle I had like worked it and not balanced it before assessing the
Hmm.
shape.
Yeah.
And with something like a point that matters.
Oh, yeah.
One side of the girdle being higher than the other is gonna visually throw it off.
And
And
also
so
the angle of your
yeah,
girdle. That's like another really big one there.
yeah,
You know, because you have people throw around the number like 11-degree girdle or whatever. Well, I'm not pulling out a protractor or whatever trying to figure out if I've got that right. I just kind of eyeball a little bit of a slant in. But when you're doing that versus it being like at first you might kind of run really straight up and down girdles, which is actually fine if you give enough rollover or enough like yeah for like silver to come up and go over. It's totally fine to go straight up and down. But typically we try to give just a little bit. So as you do that, if that's not fairly even all the way around, your circle or oval can look out of whack. And so it can
totally.
just be fixing that angle a little bit, or even, just do whatever you got to do. Really, the girdle, it matters, but it's not like super critical. It's not the important part. I mean, it is in some ways like the height of it and how well silver can wrap over it. But, a good silversmith can get that silver up and over that girdle, no matter if you're straight off a little bit, whatever.
Yep, yep. I mean, it is this scourge of some some jewelry makers. If it's a soft or if it's a brittle stone that's easy to break, sometimes zhuzhing over the top like that can be a little nerve-wracking because you're afraid you're gonna break it.
Right.
Because there's pressure involved. And that's why if you've got an angle and the stone sits inside of a bezel and the bezel takes on that angle, it's going to hold the stone. It's
Right.
going to hold the stone without having much pressure applied at all. You can just like, it's almost like icing a cake, and that's where, the jewelry makers are so stoked when there's at least a little bit of angle there instead of straight up and down, because that stone will slip in and out of that until that silver is iced over the top of the stone. Then there has to be pressure there to hold that stone in, or glue, just
Right.
depending on what jewelry you're working with.
Good tip for beginners on that, on the girdle aspect. If you can create some kind of like sometimes people make little jigs and things where you can set a stone and have a marker there and mark around like an 1/8 inch or whatever. Definitely do that. It's helpful once you get your shaping down. Um, and then the other aspect would be get your dome. So typically when I would do that, when I was first learning, I would get my shape kind of right, close, to what I want, whatever it was. And then I would mark out that girdle line so I knew what I needed to work down to. And I would get my dome all nice and orientated off of that so that it's nice and even just coming down to that. So you're just working to that line and getting your dome nice and even all around. Once you do that, then you can like round off that edge. Like sometimes it can be difficult where you think like, oh, I'm going to start, doing all this stuff. And you're like, yeah, I'm polishing, I'm working it down. But then now you've got like this weird, funky, or it's really easy on your corners to kind of cut those corners down shallower on the girdle than like the middle of your cab, like on this plane here. A lot of times you would get your corners kind of wedged down a little shallower than this part, just because, oops.
Don't break
That's
it.
good.
It means that it's really well polished.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
So
It's smooth.
slippery. Yeah.
Um, anyway, that's like, so like this actually has a very shallow dome to it. And I got it polished. And that was because I took and got that girdle line visually even around as I went. And then I got that's like the trick. Then I rounded over that edge just a little bit. So that can be kind of helpful. Because it's easy to work down thinner spots. There's less material on the tip when you're grinding right there, so it goes away faster than in the middle, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, totally. That's great that you pointed that out. Um, and it looked like Sierra has landed, and so too has Doug. Good to see you guys. And did you guys? I didn't see. I see a lot of banter going back and forth, but I don't think I saw any questions in particular. Hopefully, this helped you guys out. It's always fun to talk about some of these points with the cabbing, to remind oneself, this, a lot of this material you've probably heard before, but it's always cool to hear what other people do, what other people's perspectives are, even if it's stuff that like to be
Mhm.
reminded. Or one of the things that Steve always says is that he loves it when somebody wants to tell him about, like, say something that he knows well, because out of like maybe 20 things that he already knew, he could have turned off a long time ago. I know all that stuff.
Mhm.
A gem might drop, something that he didn't know, or a solution to a problem that was unique. And
Right.
so it's good. Like, I always have a beginner's open mind with this stuff. uh it's beautiful to always be a beginner, even if you've been doing this for a really long time, because then you're open to all of the options.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing this for 5 years. I still learn polishing tips, like the right combination of things and when to do it. Like some stones like to don't go to all the way to 3,000 and then start jumping to polishes. There's like all kinds of little ins and outs that you can learn in this trade. So,
Yep.
yep.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of the beautiful cabochons that we got to see tonight, and the knowledge that went behind them. I know that everybody is always excited to see the drops that you have over there on the Discord. Like I think it was Rick that was saying earlier about the turquoise that you've
Oh,
been dropping there and on Instagram. Noms.
yeah, it's been pretty cool stuff. I was fortunate and got some really cool material to play with recently.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's always fun to see what you guys are working on. And so that's what the show and tell is for. You don't have to be working up to doing one of the competitions or even the showcase if you don't feel like it. But the show and tell, the general, the specifics like tumbling or like even lapidary, the lapidary channel, they're great places for you to both show off, but also if you have questions, like, I'm having, uh, I think that kid asked earlier, what is a girdle? I
Okay.
don't know if that's facetious, but if you're like wondering why am I doing the things that I'm doing, or why is this always happening to me, or with this stone I'm completely stymied, the Discord is really helpful. You've got a lot of minds in there and a lot of people that have gone through like situations, and there aren't any people that'll rob all of the oxygen out of the room for you either.
Yeah,
You're
and
you're not going to get over lectured.
are you sure? Some people will
Maybe.
definitely knowledge dump on you, which don't take that as like a bad thing. But some people like me get really excited when talking about stuff like this. Like as you've
Yeah.
seen even here, where I start running on and on about talking about the thing, but you can get a lot of information. Don't be afraid to ask questions and get help, and there's a lot you can learn, and
Yeah, for
we
sure.
all share that information. So
Yeah, yeah, you'd be hard pressed to come across somebody like Theo just dropped into the chat here. And so when it's time for me to challenge myself with some of the Larimar, then I'll be hitting people up that know it and love it for some reason.
that
So,
wouldn't be
yeah.
me. Don't hit me up. I'm terrible
See?
with Larimar.
See? There's all sorts of strokes for different folks. And it's a good time over there. Even if you just want to come and you just need to like cry on a shoulder for a little while. Like, I just broke a stone. Like, I need to tell somebody right now. Even at 12:45 in the evening, somebody's gonna be up and in
Right.
there, or I
um,
should say morning.
yeah. I if we're wrapping up, I just want to leave one
Yeah.
thing for you guys. Ryan's thread is still open as long as people are like talking in there every. I don't know what the parameters are for when it might close up, but as long as people are talking in there, his photos of his slabs are still in there. So, do whatever you want to do. You can print them out and draw them by hand. Let's see what you guys kind of come up with some of with the two sides of each slab that he did. Show us what you think might be kind of cool and what you would capture if you feel up to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Melissa did that. I did it. Then Melissa did it. She provided some really cool alternatives to like what I had designed. And so it's just kind of cool to see where we all kind of differ on that stuff. So let's see what you guys got.
I love that you just threw down the gauntlet on that, because I mean, some people might not have realized that that's like this is an active thing. Like, make Ryan do your cab.
Yeah.
Here's the slab. You do the artwork and see if Ryan ends up doing your shape. And so it's a good time, and it's such good exercise. Exercise those muscles, and when you step up to your own rocks, then you'll be fit for when it is that you do your beautiful galaxy rhyolite or whatever it is that you've got going on your slab.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and spending the time with us this evening, Caleb, and being the firstliest guest on the show this year.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And this was a really cool talk. And you don't see this kind of talk around too much, I feel like. So it's probably really good for people to hear, especially people who are learning.
Yeah, yeah. And so I appreciate all of your valuable questions that you asked in the chat. If you're watching this afterwards, then please leave a question in the comments if you'd like for us to answer. We'll go ahead and keep an eyeball on that. And I'm going to parse this into chapters here hopefully the next couple of days so that you can go directly to the parts that were relevant to you and maybe listen to them while you're cabbing or when you have an issue. And so we would love for you to leave us any comments if you want to leave us something that we can work on for another conversation. If you're having some problems in an area that you would love for us to discuss. And so we definitely appreciate you. And Sierra Houndra is saying, definitely gonna rewind. So, I know, me too. Like this is gonna be valuable for me. I'm gonna love listening to the replay and going over the chapters. So once again, thank you so much, Caleb. I'm going to throw the dogs going mushroom hunting up just right now for your enjoyment. We'll watch the credits together. And I thank you all for hanging out this evening. Have a great weekend. We'll see you in all the live streams over the weekend. And cheers to you. Cheers to you, Caleb.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Alive, everybody.
Oh, look at that. It's this one instead. There we go. One of these days, I'm going to get it.
How long have you been doing this now?
I know, right? Like, something is wrong in the universe if I actually get it the first time through, right?
Mushroom hunting.
All right. Cheers, everybody. Yeah. Are you here? Am I here? Man, we can't hear me. Let's start over again. Are you here? Am I here? Man, we can't hear me. Let's start over again.